Hello, everyone. Welcome again to another edition of the ETB Men's Basketball Coaches Show with head coach Burt West, the final edition of the 2011-2012 season, where we will kind of look back and do a little review here, Coach West, of the season that has just ended last weekend with the Tigers dropping their quarterfinal match against McMurray last Friday and ending the season with a 14-11 record. Coach, let's kind of get the disappointing part out of the way. I know you were not happy with the way the season ended, just in terms of overall performance down the stretch. Your team lost. I believe the final was six. The final 6 out of 8. I'm just saying off the top of my head, but so obviously you didn't finish strong, but you did make the tournament again with a very young team, one of the youngest you've had here at this level. Just kind of give us an overview of where the team was at the end of the season as you guys get ready now to go into the off season.
David, it put a little bit of a damper on the season for us to not be able to finish strong. We had looked back, I think you and I had talked about it in one of our visits. We had those 12 just tremendous ball games in a row. And, our freshmen were playing a lot. And our sophomores that were playing a lot had not played, they didn't play very much as freshmen. And I think it may have just been more than they could overcome from the standpoint of the energy that they were using. They had never played that hard before for that extended amount of time. And so, it may have just been, we may have just run out of gas a little bit. But I'm pleased with the team. I didn't want the season to end. I had high hopes that maybe we could slip into that tournament and really maybe get on a roll, get on a hot streak, and run right through the tournament. I wouldn't have been surprised if we'd been able to do that. But McMurray, is probably a little better than us. Got 4 or 5 seniors starting, and they had a lot of experience, good players, and they got on a roll and beat us and then won the tournament. I look at, we look back, if as good as University of Texas Dallas was, we just almost got them. And I think if just Drew Webb hadn't gotten injured when he did, I think we would have won the East. And if we'd have won the East, I think we would have won a tournament game. If we'd won a tournament game, anything can happen. So, there's so many positives to the season. I feel so great about the team. But it's disappointing to not finish strong. One of the things I've always prided us in is the Tigers have always been better at the end, finish strong, been at our very best at the end. But I think with this young group, we may have our tongues may have been hanging out at the end.
Well, and then to say that you're disappointed with the way you finished like we did has to indicate that there was some good part at the very beginning of the year to make you think you could finish strong. Obviously, back in November or in October when you started practice and you looked at all those freshmen out there and guys who had never played a college basketball game before, there's a little bit of trepidation there with your experience going into a season against the kind of schedule that we play, with that team being able to measure up. But by all accounts, there was at some point there early on in the year where you knew that, hey, we got something here and these kids can play.
Well, I think you and I just talking off camera, I had high hopes early in the year because I thought this team could score, and I thought they were smart and pretty good basketball players. But probably even saying that, probably before the season started, you had said, would you take this record and this accomplishment? The answer probably would have been yes. And then as I got to know them and they showed improvement and showed their character, and I just didn't want the season to end. I enjoyed their company. Sometimes you're around a group of kids that you feel like you're a better person for having been in their presence. And I enjoyed this team. This was a good team. They did a good job. We've just got to, have a good recruiting year, add to this young group. We need to get us a pretty good hoss that can compete for us in the middle. That was a real shortcoming for us. And just continue to build on what they've accomplished. And, next year, you almost want to say, we were in don't want to call it that, but we just almost was in a rebuilding situation this season. And now with almost hardly anything except the freshmen coming back, and one guy that will be a senior. You're almost hey, we'll be in the same situation next year. So we must have a good recruiting season to help these young players.
Well, obviously, part of that recruiting is you'll need to replace the production on the court that Jeremy Lagarde gave you. Finished the year as the number 4 scorer in the American Southwest Conference. Just a heck of just kind of went off once the ASC East schedule started there with 3 games of 30 or more points, and averaging right at almost 20 points a game for the year. So you are going to have to replace that production from somewhere. And you mentioned you got one guy coming back next year to be a senior, be Jerron Joseph, who also kind of quietly had a pretty solid year himself as a junior this year. What specific things, or have y'all even thought about, just kind of give us kind of a preview of where you're kind of zoning in on right now as far as recruiting goes?
Okay, well, one thing just to address Lagarde, he did have a fine season, and I think with the amount of points he scored this year, I think he moved up to number maybe 17 or 18 on the all-time scoring list. So he's got up over 800 points in his 2-year career, so that's outstanding. And Jerron Joseph really improved himself this year. He's good. He did an excellent job defending, and he can score the basketball for us. So we're looking forward, to him continue to improve and having a big senior year. We've got 2 areas that we're mainly trying to address, and that is depth at every position. That's one area. And with the kids we're talking to, we think we can add a very similar freshman class to this group that were freshmen this season. And that's looking good at the moment. And the other area, because we think we're covering everything, but now that other area is I'm searching high and low for what I call a hoss, because we got hurt. Everyone that had a really good post player just wore us out. And so I've got to have somebody that can compete with the best post players. And so it might have to be a little bit of an older kid. So we're looking at the junior colleges. And, he doesn't have to be 6'7". That would be great if he was. But, if he's man enough, he can be a little bit smaller than that if he's a really strong, experienced type player.
We mentioned the upperclassmen there a little bit, and we've also kind of touched on the freshmen as a group. But you had really up to almost 5 true freshmen this year who played significant minutes, and most of those are going to make it tough on the coaches when the all-conference team comes out as far as the all-freshman team, because in some ways at some points during the season every one of them did something that will make you think they would be deserving of a postseason honor like that. What were some things that you were pleased with mostly from these freshmen?
Well, I think look at the point guard. Monty had sprained his ankle early, and he missed some conditioning that kept him from getting off to a great start. Monty is a very crafty little point guard, and he's got a terrific mid-range jump shot. His three-point shot is improving and will improve when his strength improves. And so we've got to find the weight room with these young guys. But Monty did an excellent job defending people, and he's just a really good job for a freshman. And then, of course, J.D. jumped in there and after 5, 6, 7 games established himself, and he was a tremendous help. His areas improved. He's got to improve closer to the basket. He's a good, smart defender and a good three-point shooter, which really was helpful to us, but he's got to get better closer to the basket. Kerry, the other young post player, he really, just exploded late, and he's high energy and quick and strong, and he's going to be that hoss I'm looking for. And I'm not sure if it'll be next year, but he will be. And all of these kids are attentive, pay attention. Irby had the great hustler, smart player, excellent three-point shooter. Just needs to, improve the overall game. And then Seth is just real smart. Seth played 4 different positions for us at different times, just helped out at different places and did a lot of help. He was just a great team guy. So all these freshmen, as they find the weight room, they get stronger and come back ready to go. We may be young, and like I say, you would think we're in a rebuilding mode again next year, but at least our young guys have played a lot of basketball, and they've proven that they're smart and they really want to compete.
Well, again, record-wise, based on what you had established in mid-season, I know the finish was a little disappointing, finishing 14-11, and we talked a couple weeks ago about wanting to finish strong and get up there around 15, 16 wins at least. And like you said, I just kind of think you ran out of gas a little bit at the end, and almost literally, all kinds of issues going on as far as the tournament and actually getting to the gym, and
that was rough.
And then coming home with some travel issues. But all through it all, I mean, you guys just kind of did what you did all year long, and particularly with your youth, and you just kind of stood up to it and said, "Okay, let's face it and go on." And you got to like that, just that inner desire and drive that you had with this group.
I think that all that they went through this season, that's going to serve this group well. I'm excited already about next year. I really, like I say, I didn't want the season to end. I enjoyed being in the company of these young men, and I look forward to them getting bigger, stronger, and faster.
Well, Coach, so do we. And again, it was another exciting year for Tiger basketball, and we'll pick this up again later on this fall and get ready for 2012, 2013.
Wow.
All right.
Thanks, David.
Thanks, Coach.